and broomsticks and ghosts, covens of witches with all of their hosts. You may think they scare me, you're probably right. Black cats and goblins on Halloween night. Trick or treat!
Howdy howdy everyone, and welcome back to the Film Archives. I'm Dennis, and I break down movies. That way I can answer the question for you, is it worth watching? I upload new videos every week, so consider subscribing to the channel for more movie breakdown stuff just like this one. And seeing as Halloween is coming up pretty soon, I thought it would be a fun idea to do one of the most iconic slasher movies ever made, Halloween. Not only will we be covering Halloween 1978, I will also be covering Halloween 2018. Let's get into it. Starting off with Halloween 1978. And bruh, the intro to this movie goes a little too hard. We have the most iconic Halloween music possibly ever made, and maybe one of the most legendary from any horror film. Our movie takes place on the night of, you guessed it, Halloween in the year of 1963, in a small town in Illinois by the name of Haddonfield. We are briefly introduced to a young Judith Myers who is making out with her boyfriend, ignoring her little bro, and that's not cool. It just isn't good because she's supposed to be watching her little brother, Michael! It's crazy. The beginning scene to this movie is actually really cool. We see things through the eyes and perspective of a young Michael Myers, and this scene is just so well done. It's actually one long shot with zero cuts. Even today, it's pretty incredible. This is something we'll see a lot of in this movie, just a single, wonderful, fluid tracking shot. It's incredible stuff. We then see a young Michael Myers climb the stairs slowly. There's a brilliant use of sound to really set this scary and eerie vibe, and 5 minutes into this movie and I'm invested. No cap, fam, that's on God. The young Michael Myers sneaks up to his sister Judith and stabs her to death with his iconic chef's knife, which kind of looks like a sushi knife. He then walks out of the house, where his parents then find him in his Halloween costume, which, interestingly enough, is actually a clown costume. We then time skip 15 years later to the night of October 30th, 1978, All Hallows Eve. So this would now make Michael Myers 21 years old. We are then introduced to Michael's psychiatrist, whose name is Dr. Samuel Loomis. He is driving with a nurse by the name of Marion Chambers to the sanatorium where Michael is incarcerated in order to escort him to a court hearing he is supposed to have the next day. He mentions to the nurse Marion that there is nothing to worry about, as Michael hasn't spoken a word in the past 15 years. Dr. Loomis also refers to Michael Myers as it and not a person, which will come back into play a bit later. We then again get some epic Halloween music playing during this scene, and let me tell you, bruh, it's so good. It's so good. It just hits different. It just hits different. As they arrive at the sanatorium, Dr. Loomis exits the car to unlock the main gate. And as he does so, we see Michael Myers jump on the roof of the car like a literal ninja, and he attacks the nurse Marion. And bruh, honestly, the actor who plays the unmasked Michael Myers is so creepy. It's pretty scary. It's hella scary, actually. And interestingly enough, there's actually 3 different actors that play Michael Myers. An actor who played him as a kid, one in the scene where he's unmasked, and an entirely different actor when he has the mask on, or is otherwise known as The Shape. The nurse Marion just decides to dip out of the vehicle, and Michael steals the car and drives away, which I'm not really sure how he knows how to drive since he's been locked up since he was like a 6-year-old kid, but it's fine. A bit later, even Dr. Loomis, Michael Myers' psychiatrist, is also surprised that he's able to drive a car, and he even mentions this in the movie, so let's all just respect the classics. Okay, guys? Let's just respect them. Michael, having stolen the car, then makes his way back to Haddonfield. It is now the next day, which happens to be Halloween, where we are introduced to a young Laurie Strode, played by a 20-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis, and this is one of her best roles next to True Lies. Like, I watch that movie all the time. It's great. Video coming in the future on that. We see Laurie drop off a key at the abandoned childhood home of Michael Myers for her father, who happens to be a real estate agent trying to sell the Myers house. And bruh, this movie is so retro, it's honestly a vibe. It's honestly a vibe. And this is the beginning of when Michael begins to stalk Laurie Strode. He watches her from inside the house the moment she puts the key underneath the front doormat. super scary, bro. Super scary. And honestly, that scene was a bit nar. Like, just seeing him stare through the front door window and her not even noticing was super creepy. Michael's doctor, Dr. Loomis, has actually followed Michael Myers, where he discovers that Michael Myers has already killed a car mechanic and stolen his overalls, which explains why he's in his overalls and no longer in his hospital gown. We then follow Lori throughout the day, where she begins to notice Michael following her. We see him stalking her at school, which is honestly so creepy, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of cool because they mirror this scene in the most recent Halloween 2018, but we'll get into that soon enough. We then see Lori and her friends walk home from school, basically just kind of dismiss Lori's concerns about Michael Myers stalking her and think that she's kind of full of it. Not good. Not good. And at this point, Myers has been stalking Lori like the entire day. And I'll be honest, if I saw a tall dude wearing, a pale white mask just staring at me from random places and then suddenly disappearing, I would poop my pants. I would poop my pants. Let me know how you would react down in the comment section below. Dr. Loomis then discovers that Michael has also stolen his sister Judith's tombstone from the cemetery, confirming his suspicion that Michael has come back to his childhood home.
He came home.
We then see Lori and Annie on their way to babysit, and they're smoking the devil's lettuce and they're smoking reefers inside the car and listening to Don't Fear the Reaper, which is very fitting because you already know that Michael Myers is following them. And in fact, he's actually following them in the car right behind them. It's terrifying. As they're driving, they make their way through the town where they see that someone has broken into the local hardware store. Lori's friend, Annie, her dad is actually the sheriff and tells them that whoever broke into the hardware store stole a mask, some rope, and a couple of knives. I wonder who could possibly be responsible for this. Bruh, it's Michael Myers. You already know. We then see Dr. Loomis meet up with Annie's dad, the sheriff, and explain to him that Michael Myers has come to their town, or as he puts it, death has come to their little town, which is a pretty cool line. I'm not gonna lie. Shortly after, they then begin to search for Michael Myers. They decide to start their investigation off by investigating the old Myers house, where they come across the corpse of a dog, which is luckily off camera. Dr. Loomis notes that Michael Myers actually killed this dog in order to eat him for food, which is savage, bruh. Savage. Dr. Loomis then tells the sheriff that Michael is not human, and he has realized that Michael is pure evil. Michael Myers has no reason, no conscience, no understanding, even in the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. He then mentions that he met Michael after he murdered his sister as a 6-year-old child, and that he had the same pale, blank face, void of expression or emotion, and the blackest of eyes. The devil's eyes.
The devil's eyes.
He then spent 8 years trying to help Michael, and then another 7 years trying to keep him locked up for good, realizing that he was nothing but evil. Since Michael Myers is nowhere to be found, Dr. Loomis then decides to wait at the Myers house for Michael to come back, which is a bold move. Later that night, we see that Michael has followed Annie and Lori to their babysitting jobs. Lori is watching a kid by the name of Tommy Doyle, while Annie is watching a girl by the name of Lindsay Wallace right across the street, which is pretty cool. I thought it was super funny that they're both babysitting just faded, negated, like they had just come off that good, like smoking that good kush, you know what I mean? That dank, that steggy, icky, a little bit of perp, the little bit of the diamonds, you know what I mean? Like they high as fuck. We then see Michael spy on Annie, and he then kills Lindsay Wallace's family dog. And this guy is just a dog hater, and we don't like that kind of thing. The young Tommy that Lori is watching actually spots Michael from the window, but seeing as how it's Halloween, Lori does not believe him. We then see Annie take Lindsay Wallace to the Doyle house for the night so she can just kind of dip out on her babysitting job and go meet up with her boyfriend, whose name is Paul, which is pretty shady since she's most likely getting paid to watch Lindsay, but then Lori has to watch both Lindsay and Tommy. Like, WTF. Bad babysitter exposed. Side note, it's so crappy that these 10-year-old kids don't even get to go outside that night to go trick-or-treating, and their parents are just super whack and leave them to be, babysat. That's not a cool mom or a cool dad, at all. As Annie leaves to go pick up her boyfriend, we see that Michael has hidden inside her car, where he then strangles her right before he slits her throat. And this is super nar. We then see Laurie's friend from earlier, Linda, and her boyfriend, Bob, arrive at Lindsay Wallace's, where Annie is supposed to be babysitting, and they're already drunk. But they go inside the house and they find that it is completely empty, that Annie is nowhere to be found, and that Lindsay, the kid, is across the street, of course. Of course, they take this opportunity to start having sex. And then Bob goes downstairs to go get a beer out of the fridge from the kitchen. And bruh, this isn't your house, and these are not your beers. So where the do you get off? Where do you get off? I would be pissed if someone was babysitting my kid and stole my beers. Those are my beers. Those are my beers. Okay? Those are my beers. It's at this point we see Michael attack Linda's boyfriend, Bob, and he pins Bob to the wall using a chef's knife. Monster kill. It's insane. It's insane. Michael, being a total weirdo, then poses as Bob by putting a sheet over him and pretending to be a ghost and wearing Bob's glasses. And honestly, this scene was pretty good. It's pretty good. He then goes and finds Linda upstairs, who not knowingly begins to taunt the Michael Myers, and kind of teases him and tries to arouse him sexually. And this has zero effect on Michael Myers. He does not care. He has no rhyme or reason, He has no understanding, even in the most rudimentary sense. Life or death, it doesn't matter. Good or evil, it doesn't matter. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. So as Linda attempts to seduce the Michael Myers who she thinks is Bob, she gets upset and she calls Laurie to find out what happened to their other friend, Annie, who was supposed to go pick up her boyfriend, Bob. And it's at this moment we see Michael Myers strangle Linda to death using the phone cord. And he does all of this while Laurie is still listening to the phone call. Meanwhile, we see that Dr. Loomis has discovered the stolen car from earlier in the movie and begins to search the streets for Michael Myers. Naturally, worried by the phone call, Laurie goes across the street to Lindsay Wallace's house to investigate, where she discovers the bodies of Annie, Linda, and Linda's boyfriend, Bob, as well as discovering Judith Myers' tombstone in the upstairs bedroom. Upon seeing this, Laurie runs into the hallway where Michael slashes her arm. It causes Laurie to fall over the banister. Stunned and injured, Laurie manages to escape the house, all while Michael is still chasing after her, and we get the classic killer chase vibes here. It's really good. Laurie manages to make it back to Tommy Doyle's house, where she tells Tommy to go hide with Lindsay. Laurie then attempts to call for help, only to find that the phone is dead. And I'm not really sure how that happened, but we're not questioning this, guys. It's Michael Myers. We're not questioning this. Michael then sneaks in through the window and attacks Laurie again, but she stabs him in the neck with a knitting needle. And this was brutal. Thinking Michael is dead at this point, Laurie manages to stagger upstairs to check on both of the children, where we see Michael appear again. He cannot and will not be stopped. It's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. The two kids, Tommy and Lindsay, decide to hide in the bathroom, while Laurie decides to hide in the bedroom closet, which is sort of weird that you would separate from the kids you're supposed to be watching, but that's okay. That's okay. We're not going to question this either. Michael is full on psycho mode at this point, and he breaks down the closet door. However, Laurie manages to stab Michael in the eye with a coat hanger, and this causes Michael to drop his knife, which Laurie then uses to stab him in the chest. Laurie then tells Tommy and Lindsay to go to the neighbor's house to call the police for help. And again, I'm not sure why she didn't just go with the kids. I probably would have gone with the kids and gotten as far away from the person attempting to murder me as possible. But again, that's just me. Michael then rises again. However, at this point, Dr. Loomis, who has been searching for Michael Myers, comes across the children running inside the street and screaming from their house and decides to go investigate. He arrives and sees Michael strangling Laurie. It's crazy. However, Laurie manages to break free by pulling off Michael Myers' mask, revealing his face. And I gotta say, he's pretty handsome. He's pretty handsome. Dr. Loomis then shoots at Michael Myers using his revolver, and this actually knocks Michael off the balcony. Laurie then asks Dr. Loomis if that was the boogeyman, to which he replies, as a matter of fact, it was. Damn! What a line. The script in this movie is S tier, bro. It's S tier. We then see Dr. Loomis go to check on the body, but he is unsurprised to see that Michael has risen again and he's also vanished, so it's not good. Cue the iconic Halloween music again, and we see Dr. Loomis stare off into the distance as Laurie sobs in the background, basically just completely traumatized at this point. And as the Halloween music plays, we then fade to black, and Halloween 1978 comes to a close. All right, gals and pals, let's get into Halloween 2018. Halloween 2018 is actually the 11th installment in the Halloween film series and is a direct sequel to the 1978 film, which shares the same name. However, these newer movies chose to completely disregard all of the previous sequels and instead chose to pick up 40 years later after the events of the original movie. This movie starts off on the day of October 29th, 2018. We are introduced to two true crime podcasters whose names are Aaron Corey and Dana Haynes. They are both currently visiting Smith's Grove Psychiatric Hospital, where they meet with a doctor by the name of Dr. Sartain, who has actually been studying Michael for the past 40 years while he has been institutionalized, following directly after his killing spree in Haddonfield back in 1978. We learn that Michael Myers is being prepared to be transferred to a maximum security prison. So the podcaster, Aaron, attempts to interview him before he is transferred, asking if he feels any guilt or remorse for his crimes, and eventually he even shows Michael's mask to him. And you guessed it, none of this has any effect on Michael. Shocker. As we have learned from the first movie, he has no reason, no conscience, no understanding, even in the most rudimentary sense, of life or death, right or wrong, good or evil. And I will say I love the small details in this movie. We can see that there is now a scar on Michael Myers' neck from where Laurie had stabbed him with the knitting needle, and we even see that he has now one cloudy eye from where Laurie also stabbed him with the coat hanger, and I thought this was a really nice touch. The two true crime podcasters, Aaron and Dana, track down Laurie Strode in an attempt to get her side of the story. They ask her why Michael chose to come after her, and seeing as how the new movies don't include any of the previous sequels aside from the first and original Halloween movie, Laurie is actually not Michael's sister, and apparently that was just a rumor that the people around the town had made up. So throw that in the trash. It doesn't exist. So none of the other sequels like Halloween 2 and 4 and Halloween H2O, they don't matter. They don't exist. Throw them in the trash. Aaron then asks Laurie if she would be willing to talk to Michael since he hasn't spoken a word to anyone in 40 years and, another 15 years before that, which is insane. But he may choose to speak to Laurie. And I'll just be honest, hell no, brother. Hell no, bro. Hell no. We then see that Laurie still lives in Haddonfield. However, she now lives in isolation and is in constant fear of Michael Myers, and very rarely leaves her very heavily fortified house. We are then introduced to Laurie's granddaughter, whose name is Allison. We see that she is in class at school, and I love this scene. It directly mirrors the scene of Laurie in class from the original movie, but instead of Laurie looking out the window and seeing Michael, Allison, Laurie's granddaughter, looks out the window and sees her grandmother, Laurie. I thought this was really well done. We then learn that Laurie has a strained relationship with Allison's mother, which would be Laurie's daughter, whose name is Karen. Literally, why is it always got to be a Karen? The state actually took Karen away from Laurie when she was 12 years old because she was so traumatized by the events of the original Halloween 1978 movie. Laurie's granddaughter, Allison, tries to maintain a good relationship with her. During the next night, which is now October 30th, All Hallows Eve, we see that Michael is now being transferred to the maximum security prison, and we also see that Laurie is watching this happen from a distance inside her car. A bit later, we see that the bus that is transporting Michael to the maximum security prison actually winds up crashing, and he is, of course, able to escape. He then murders two people and steals their truck, and one of the two people that he murders is a young kid, and damn, Michael Myers is one brutal son of a b****. The next day, which is now the morning of October 31st, which means, you guessed it, it's Halloween, and we all know what that means. Michael Myers, you know your life's already expired. It's super scary, bro. We then see Michael Myers as he stalks the two true crime podcasters from earlier, Aaron and Dana, while they are visiting his sister Judith's grave. He follows them both to a gas station where he winds up killing the local mechanic for his overalls, similar to the first movie. He then kills both Aaron and Dana inside of the bathroom, and this scene is one of the most gnarliest double kills I've ever seen in my life. Like, this fool jumps Dana while she's taking a poop and just dumps the mechanic's teeth at her feet. And I'm not gonna lie, if I was taking a poop and someone just dumped a handful of teeth, I would be like, okay, I'm done, I'm going home now, I will poop at home. And this is why I don't poop in public, and you shouldn't either. Dana calls for help, and eventually Aaron comes in to attempt to help her, but Michael Myers cannot and will not be stopped, and he kills them both. It's insane. It's insane stuff. After he kills them both, he goes into Aaron's car and he recovers his mask. They just did a fantastic job overall on this scene. We see Michael Myers move throughout the background silently as if he was just a shape, killing all of his victims. It's really well done. We then see Laurie at her home where she sees the news report about Michael Myers' escape from the bus, and she goes to her daughter's house, Karen, and attempts to warn her. However, her daughter Karen just basically brushes her off and dismisses all of her concerns and tells Laurie that she needs to move on. Later that night, while all the children are out trick-or-treating, Michael returns to his old stomping grounds. I love this scene for multiple reasons. They use the same sound effects from the original, as well as the original Trick or Treat song that the kids are singing in the original 1978 movie, which are all just really nice touches. Michael Myers immediately begins his murder spree once again, and he breaks into the house of a nearby woman and kills her with a hammer before he arms himself with a new chef's knife, which he then uses to quickly kill the neighbor. They also recreated the intro scene from the original movie and filmed this scene in one fluid tracking shot with no cuts, and I think we all can appreciate that. S tier, no cap, that's on God. A bit later that night, we catch up with Laurie's granddaughter, Allison, who happens to be at a Halloween party, and she catches her boyfriend cheating on her, and she gets upset, obviously, and winds up leaving with her boyfriend's friend, whose name is Oscar. Meanwhile, we see Allison's friend, whose name is Vicky, babysitting a kid by the name of Julian for the night. And again, what kind of kids can't go trick-or-treating on Halloween? Like, it's just fucked up, bro. Honestly, this little kid, Julian, is really funny, and I was dying at some of the scenes with him. Like, it was truly super funny.
I know you talking about smoking weed. Don't lie to me.
Vicky, who is babysitting Julian, decides to call her boyfriend over for the night, and we all know what Michael Myers does to babysitters and their boyfriends. It's not good. It's not good. There's just a funny scene with the little kid Julian, who happens to see Michael Myers lurking inside of his house, which he then tells Vicky that the boogeyman is there, and she's like, no, you know what, you're probably just seeing things, you've watched too many scary movies, and he's like, no, send Dave to go check your boyfriend. It's super funny, dude. It's super funny.
Send Dave first.
So what does Michael Myers do to babysitters and their boyfriend? He kills them. So of course, Vicky and her boyfriend, they're both killed. It's very sad. They're both killed, and these are some brutality kills. Like, they are just absolutely insane. We are then introduced to Deputy Frank Hawkins, who actually was the first officer on scene and was the one who arrested Michael on Halloween night in 1978, so it's pretty cool. Laurie, being the total weirdo that she is, has a police scanner and overhears the incident being reported on the police radio. So she goes to the house to investigate. It's at this point that Laurie sees Michael for the first time in 40 years. She then shoots at him, and this causes Michael to just dip out, and he flees, and he makes his escape. The police at this point take Laurie, her daughter Karen, and Karen's husband Ray to go to Laurie's fortified home for protection, who has basically been preparing for this night for the past 40 years. We then see Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Ranbeer, who is also actually a former student of Dr. Samuel Loomis, who was the original doctor to Michael, persuade the sheriff to help him search for Michael. Which seems weird, but this is very similar to the first movie where Dr. Loomis convinced the sheriff to help him search for Michael Myers. So we then go back to Allison and her friend Oscar, who are walking back to Allison's house. Michael, who has been stalking both of them, winds up killing Oscar, and he then attacks Allison. However, Deputy Hawkins and the Dr. Sartain arrive just in time to save Allison, so this is good. This is very good. We see the officer, Deputy Hawkins, actually try to just kill Michael outright by hitting him with his car. But of course, Michael cannot and will not be stopped. It's at this point we learn that Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Sartain, has actually become obsessed with Michael, and he attacks and kills Officer Hawkins. It's terrible. It's terrible. We then see Dr. Sartain drive toward Laurie's home with an unconscious Michael Myers and Allison, who are both locked inside of the backseat of the police car. Of course, Michael Myers wakes up and breaks out, and he basically instantly kills Dr. Sartain by just stomping on his head. And this is literally insanely brutal. Like, Michael is yoked up. Like, he is yoked up, bro. It's not good, fam. It's not good. Meanwhile, Allison just immediately dips out the moment she can and heads towards her grandmother Laurie's house. We then go back to Laurie's house, where we see that the two police officers who are stationed outside of her home have come across Deputy Hawkins' nearby stolen police car, and they go to investigate, not knowing that Michael Myers has stolen it. So of course, Michael Myers kills both of them too. It's terrible. We then see Karen's husband go outside to ask the two police officers who are stationed out there about Allison and if they've managed to find her. But you know they didn't manage to find Allison, because guess what? Michael found Allison first. Michael has already killed the two police officers, and guess what? Michael also kills Karen's husband. Terrible. He strangles that fool to death, bro. Like, just chokes him out. Chokes him out, bro. It's crazy. Michael, who has now made his way to Laurie's house, winds up attacking her in her home. And of course, he manages to get through all of her fortifications and all of her defenses, and he breaks inside. We also see that Allison, Laurie's granddaughter, has managed to make her way back to the house at the same time. We then get the epic final showdown and confrontation we have all been waiting for. During their showdown, Michael actually manages to stab Laurie and pushes her over the balcony. Michael then goes to check on her body, and he soon finds that it is now missing with an imprint in the grass. This basically directly mirrors the way that Michael had disappeared at the end of the first movie, which is also a very nice touch, you know. They just keep it going. It's great. It's great. We then see Laurie's daughter, Karen, shoot Michael in the jaw, and eventually Laurie comes back and is able to trap Michael inside of their safe room.
It's a trap.
Having Michael trapped in the basement safe room, the three of them manage to light the house on fire, with Michael still being trapped in the basement. We then see Laurie say her final goodbye to Michael right before she faints from her wounds. We then see Laurie's family take her to the hospital, and we get an outro shot of the burning basement, but Michael is nowhere in sight. Nowhere in sight. Crazy, bro, right? It's crazy. And then fade to black. Sha 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 sha. The movie ends, and at the very end of the credits, you can hear Michael's iconic breathing, which indicates that he actually survived the fire. I mean, come on. We all know Michael ain't gonna go out that easy. We all know that. And then finally, that brings a close to Halloween 2018. So, are the Halloween movies worth watching? Obviously, yes. I mean, they're literally perfect for going into Halloween and the spooky season. They're not just cult classics, they're literally icons. Both of these movies have great pacing. They're not too slow and they're not too rushed. I love the fact that they had a lot of direct mirror scenes from Halloween 1978 that they recreated in a different way in Halloween 2018. I love that they upped the ante in the new movie from the original, obviously, because the original is a little dated, so you don't get a ton of the brutal kills. But of course, Halloween 2018 throws that out the window, and they're just bananas. They're absolutely bananas with the kills. Like, it's really great. I love that they brought in the original Laurie Strode, and that they have a lot of the original music and sound effects. And overall, I think that the Halloween series is considered to be one of the most influential films within the horror genre of all time, and is largely responsible for the popularization of slasher films, essentially helping to develop and define the current slasher, genre meta. Alrighty, gals and pals. That about wraps up things for me today. I just want to thank you all for watching. I really, truly appreciate each and every one of you. We're pushing towards 200 subscribers, which to me is just incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine being in a room with 200 people all watching the same video. Like, the thought of that kind of blows my mind. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more videos just like this one. If you have any suggestions for a movie that you want to see a video on, please let me know down below in the comment section. Much love to you all, and until next time, Happy Halloween. He is the shape behind the bush where he watches and waits, stalking his prey, killing them all before the next day. He's up on Haddonfield Way. Hey, you already know the flows. He's got the chef knife though, and he's coming at you from the windows. He's creeping, he's crawling, he's the motherfucking goat. He is Michael Myers, and you don't want none of this smoke.